Hey, what's up, guys? Sean here with Blue Ridge Silverhound. We have another edition of the Pocket Change Market Report, January 8th, 2022. I want to thank you guys for tuning in on your Saturday morning goodies. These are all coins, of course, sold on eBay that are errors and varieties that you can find by going through regular good old Pocket Change. Maybe you're an avid roll hunter. You obtain bank rolls. You go through them and you send them back and you just kind of reap the rewards of all the different kind of really cool finds that are in there. But in addition, there is also the art of cherry picking. Cherry picking is that, you go to maybe a coin shop that's in town or nearby, or maybe you have a coin show. And the idea is you're cherry picking a coin that otherwise isn't recognized by a dealer as being an error or variety. Sometimes they do this to a lot of the more minor stuff, and they probably want to deal more into stuff that they could sell immediately. But this is going to be a good opportunity for you guys to really hone in on some of these coins. Maybe there's a repunch date on an Indian head cent that you discovered, yet they're charging like $10. On the amount of work you put into it will be the amount of rewards that's going to be offered to you at the end. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Again, all of the images are raw on the respective sellers' listings. In addition, we don't talk about graded coins as well. Grading coins in general adds just a tremendous amount of money that you have to spend to make sure that that thing is in a plastic holder. And there are just some errors and varieties that are undeserving of grading. So why spend that extra $90 to $100 to grade an error coin through PCGS when you could just sell it? Because the value is going to be assured for that particular error or variety. All right, so we got a 1945 Lincoln Wheat Cent. This one is off center by about 25%. Keep in mind, the coin is not in fantastic shape, but these are relatively scarce out there, especially, this is one of those things that you'll either come across in like an old wheat cent bag. I've found a few of these myself, maybe not to this level. I found a lot of like 10% off center struck 1950s Wheaties through the course of the last 20 years. And they are a welcome find, and they are being collected merely for the date. If you're able to read a date and mint mark on there, there are collectors that want them because they do assemble date sets. Now, as far as condition, this one's not fantastic. It's got gunk and a little bit of corrosion on the reverse there. You can see it. And believe it or not, dealers will throw this just into a bulk kind of error bin. I've seen these before, and I've picked up a few really nice scarce dates for around $5 a piece. Although I haven't done that in a few years and the market has gone up. This particular coin right here is in decent shape, and it did sell for $83 with 17 bids. So you could see just the overall possibilities. Anything pre-1959 Lincoln cent errors of this type are generally worth a lot more in the marketplace. All right, so the next one that we have here is, believe it or not, a very this one will sneak up on you. Okay, this is a coin that probably at one point was found in maybe a wheat cent bag. Maybe it was bought inexpensively just to fulfill this date. Now, it is a tougher date. It's a 24S, but in this particular grade, if you just bought it, say, at a coin shop, they'll probably have it for, like $5 to $10. You could pick up something like this and be okay with it. But you could also find these as well out there. It's not, it's not a 14D, it's not a 31S, so there is that. What I like most about this coin is it has that wood grain reverse on there. And again, that's an improper alloy mix. These coins, the planchets, were produced from copper and with just a little insignificant amount of tin, aluminum. So when the mix isn't done that well, you're going to get the wood graining appearance that you see here on this coin. This one through 3 bids sold for $11. So not too bad. I found coins like this in this date and mint mark in wheat cent bags I've paid 5 cents a piece for and have done really well on them. All right, our first piece of paper money is going to be this 2017 $1 bill. And I just want to throw a little bit of caution your guys' way. Because I've noticed that there are a few specific sellers that have been offering these up. Now there is going to be some question to the legitimacy of these errors, but I wanted to talk about this because I've seen them on a number of occasions while I'm preparing other PCMRs, but have mainly avoided them. So I wanted to see if maybe you guys are coming across some of these particular errors yourself, seeing as how these are brand new $1 bills. There's surely going to be more. It can't be just this one seller coming across these. That will make it quite questionable. But on the reverse, we have a very funky kind of like insufficient inking appearance to the back of the note. I can tell you this right now. There is a way of chemically altering this to give it this look. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say, yeah, that's what this one is. But until further notice, or until when someone else finds one of these, I'm going to question this. Now, there is some people that are kind of questioning it, and the results show in the secondary market. Like, nobody's going out of their way to spend hundreds of dollars for a note like this compared to legitimate insufficient inking error currency. This one right here sold for only $46.69, and that's with 14 bids. So this is a brand new note, and insufficient inking on much newer notes because of the advanced process of printing these sheets. You just don't see these that often. So again, until further notice, until one of these comes back straight graded, maybe through PCGS currency or PMG. This one I'm going to question for now, and I would expect that you guys might do the same unless you find one. If you did find one, maybe it's a different shape than what you see here, then, that might change the story quite a bit. All right, the next one that we have here, again, we're going to bring back the good old motto, CUDs are king. In the marketplace, these coins sell for a boatload of money. At first glance, you're like, you don't really think anything of it, especially if you're a first timer into coin collecting. But this one right here, as you can see, has a big old blob right there at the top of the coin. A large piece of the die had fallen off at one point. Keep in mind, the mid presses go under just strenuous, rigorous type of, everyday kind of wear and tear, and that's something you got to keep in mind. So there's going to be bits and parts that will need to be maintained and repaired at some point. The dies are not immune to it. This is a 1997, one of the most later dates that you could find a full-fledged CUD like this. This one, believe it or not, ended up selling for $84.24. Just a tremendous amount of value for something like this. Now, here's a coin that you guys should be on the lookout for. Now, we are a few short weeks away from the first 2022 coins to drop out in circulation. So there's going to be some of you that'll still be able to see 2021 nickels out there in circulation between now until probably mid-February, maybe the end of February, depending on how on time the Fed Reserve and the local banks process through the new coins will determine whether or not we find any more of these. But this is a 2021P Jefferson nickel, so for you folks there on the East Coast, be on the lookout. But yeah, look up close here. We have what I affectionately refer to as Scarface Jefferson. We've seen that on the Morgan dollars and all that stuff, so I figure I apply it here because this cat looks like he's been through a few good old wars. But this right here, you can see this line right here, and also right here, bottom of his mouth area. Some would say that this is a die gouge, but because of the size and width of this anomaly, this is more appropriately called a die dent. All right, which means that some Mint employee at one point or another inadvertently dropped maybe a tool right on the face of that die, which made this impression. The impression being on the die. but when it strikes a coin, it's actually going to be a raised event on there. Just a really cool looking coin. It's got loads of character based off of where it's located. It'd be cool if there was one on the cheek, but, considering that this is nearly a straight line, it was probably a tool or something to that effect that had fallen square on the die. Pretty neat. And, it didn't sell for a boatload of money, but how about $10.53? That's pretty good, considering that, let's say, if you had a full bank box of 2021p nickels, you come across just one, more than likely, and the likelihood is very strong, that you're going to find multiples of that same coin. Because when you look through a bank box of solid date of any one denomination, generally they've been produced by either 1, 2, or 3 sets of dies. So the opportunity for this same event to occur in multiple rolls is highly possible. So keep that in mind. And again, another 2021 error that should be on top of your radar while these are still fresh out there in circulation. Now, believe it or not, this particular coin right here sold as a raw example. Normally we see these graded, but this is a Jefferson nickel. Don't know what the date is, that was struck by mistake on an pre-1982 copper Lincoln cent planchet. As you can see, it's got that red and brown patina on there, as you would expect. The overall size of the coin is a lot smaller. You can just notice a lot of the lettering has been cut off around the periphery of the coin. But the testament is you got to grade all errors, right? Not so. This is a coin here, again, that's sold by itself outside of a graded slab for $249.99. Let's just call it $250. There was also a graded example that was like a Mid-State 63 or something like that sold for $300. So, in this particular instance, given the high cost of grading these type of coins with the error attribution, and sending it off, and then, the time it takes for it to come back. As you guys know, there's massive delays in folks getting their grading submissions back because they're running this 5-for-4 modern coin grading special through PCGS. So keep that in mind. If you don't have to absolutely necessarily send this out to a grader, then don't do so, because it will still have the same amount of value pre the grading event. $250. All right, so this is going to be the only inclusion of some sort of world coin on the list. Now, this is a 1985 Mexico 50 peso coin, and it's off center. This is, and I tell this to a lot of folks. There are certain countries of world coins with errors. They are worth a lot of money. Okay, any sort of English early British coinage. Or even the more modern stuff pre the changeover to the euro monetary system. Let's see, Australian coinage as well. Mexico's a big one. Philippines. These are all a few countries that there are a number of collectors that covet coins such as this. This one is in really nice shape too. It's, I love that eagle reverse on there, whatever kind of bird that is. Looks like the rising of the phoenix, to be honest. I think it's a really cool artistically rendered design that even we see it on the Libertads as well. This one right here is off center by about, 55%, give or take. And this one ended up selling for $25.25 with 7 bids. I've cherry-picked coins similar to this at coin shops because they just don't want to deal with it. All right. So with that being said, another man's trash is your treasure. Now, in the last episode of the PCMR, I had showcased the 1995 double die offers Lincoln cent. This is, of course, the FS101, but that particular example is a really high mint-state graded example that sold for over $50. All right, but more realistically, you're going to come across coins that look like this, that have circulated, they're oxidizing into brown, They definitely have some wear on the coin upon closer examination. This is what a worn DDO FS101 1995 Lincoln would look like. You're beginning to see less of the splits and all that with the loops and various letters on Liberty, but you can still see it quite strongly on the motto here, "In God We Trust." So even a coin in this particular condition ended up selling for $24.20. The seller had this coin offered at, I think, $25 and had accepted $20, and then you add shipping and it's like $24.20. Not too bad. So yeah, it's still definitely worth pulling out. All right, and then for you Kennedy half roll hunters out there, if you want something as good as silver, then don't forget about the missing FG initial Kennedys. There are a few dates to look out for. Most notable was it 72, 82, and 83, I believe. Here's the 82p. This one's even in the Cherry Picker's Guide. And normally, right in this area, you would have FG for Frank Gasparo. That's his designer initials that were normally there. But a common thing back in the day was that this area was over abraded or over polished. So it eliminated the initials and it strikes up into this event that you see here. This one sold for $13.72, which is good for approximately 2 90% silver halves. So make sure you're looking out for these. And here's a well out of focused 1993 $1 bill. And this one, yeah, it looks like it's miscut. It is. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, it's very apparent that this particular note is miscut. You can even see a little bit of a sliver of the next note on the sheet right there. It's very thin, but at least it's there. There's the back of the note, so you have a very wide margin at the bottom of the note. This note, very well circulated, but still sold for $33. So again, condition really doesn't matter too much on these. Once they get to a certain point, then, you know, it's like they're worth whatever someone's willing to pay for it. Another 2021 error. I've actually shared this one before throughout the last 12 months. But hey, yeah, good old Lincoln smoking a little bit of a cigarette. Boy, is that thing long. Are we thinking Virginia Slims? I don't know. But 2021 Philadelphia Lincoln Shield scent with an apparent strike through there in front of his mouth. Perfectly placed, and you can make any sort of like kind of analogy of what that might be, but yeah, I'm thinking he's taking a puff of something. This one right here sold for $12.95, and that's with 2 bids. All right, so this one will surprise you a little bit. Now, you guys know my affinity for searching out fancy serial number notes, right? Low serial numbers, high serial numbers, repeaters, radars, things like that. Well, this is a 4-digit low serial number. Now, you could ask some of the hardcore fancy serial number specialists, and they'll say what they want to see are 5 leading zeros in a 3-digit serial. This particular case kind of bucks that trend a little bit, and I think the significance of the serial number 1020 might also indicate maybe a birth date, and that might also play into why this one sold for what it did. This one ended up selling for $115.74. It is a gem crisp example. I will say that. It hasn't circulated, so it was probably pulled from a BEP pack straight from the Fed Reserve. But really cool. It's good to know that something like this has this level of value. So I welcome you guys to be aware of these type of notes with a 4-digit serial number. If it has some sort of other meaning, then that might even add to your case for a much higher sell price. There's a back of the note. Again, no folds to speak of. This one is crisp. Now, this one's neat. It's the 2001 Lincoln Memorial Cent. And as you can see, there's something going on there on Lincoln's head. Note the overall condition of the coin. There's carbon spotting all over the place. But we have a strike through here. This could be a strike through maybe thread, maybe a metal shaving, perhaps a bristle, things like that. You can just kind of imagine what this could be. But it's really neat, it's there, and it's not a scratch because you don't have the buildup of the metal on either side of that canal where the strike through is. This one is struck into the coin. And then whatever foreign substance was on there had fallen out either off of the die or off of the coin at one point. This one ended up selling for $17.35, and that's with 11 bids. Nothing to see here other than a full 50-piece count roll of 1948S Lincoln Wheat Cents. This is a gem red lot that was sold by this particular seller. There were even a couple of errors in there. The coin on the left is an elliptical ragged clip, which is really cool. And then the coin on the right underneath the date, if you see it, we got a little bit of a planchet flaw. So there were a few of these in there. I think the ragged clip by itself, would probably sell for about $25. But the other coin is rather minor. Some would even say that that's more of a distraction on a high-graded Lincoln like this. But keep in mind, early pre-55 BU rolls of Lincoln Cents are hot in the market right now. This particular roll sold for only $359.50, and I use that loosely. Here's a 1987 Washington quarter. It's in really nice shape, but what we have here is a slightly off-center strike. You can see the top of Liberty's got a little skim there, so they gave this Washington a little bit of a fade haircut, but yeah, we probably have a little bit of a partial tilted collar as well. So the collar wasn't completely seated or engaged the way you wanted it to. There was the edge, so you have no reading whatsoever. Those are those little lines on the edge. But you also have a little bit of that railroaded kind of like stepped area here as well. This coin sold for $13.25. And here's a 2001 Lincoln Memorial with a broad strike error. So the coin is a little bit bigger. You can just see how much further the rim juts out past the devices around the periphery, which is like United States of America, 1 cent, the motto, things like that. Again, the collar wasn't seated. It malfunctioned a little bit. So the metal flow has to go somewhere, so it goes out. This one sold for $10.95, and that's with 4 bids through a traditional auction. Here's another $1 bill, this time on the 1999 series. By the way, I'm kind of digging that serial number. It's not really a fancy, but I have this thing about 8s. And then when you kind of pair it up with 3s, because 3 is almost like a number 8, you would think that 3s and 8s would be probably one of the sexiest combinations of numbers out there, but it's not. But this one, yeah, it looks like it was a little bit of a miscut. Maybe the overprint and backprint are slightly misaligned. As you can see there, the backprint, you got a much bigger margin up top. And this one sold for $69.98 with 33 bids. So again, another well-circulated note that has pretty good value. Excuse me. Let's see, we got 1990 Lincoln Memorial here. Now, this one is off-center struck by about 70%, but you guys notice that kind of like straight flat edge there right by Lincoln's head. This is actually one of the diagnostics that will help determine that this is also a chain strike. So when you have multiple coins in the striking chamber and they both get struck, obviously, the coins will meet up to a certain point, okay? And then that metal will stretch out where it butts up against the other coin, all right? So, it really does not add a whole lot of value if you had like a mated pair, but having just one is fine. And this is a little bit tougher date as well for off-center strikes. Believe it or not, this one sold for $32.25, which is a little bit above what the traditional market value is for these copper-coated zinc off-center strikes. And here's another off-center struck, this time a Roosevelt dime. No date on there, so it's not as special. But, you know, if you needed an example of an off-center dime, this one would work out okay. And it still does have value, so don't really, you know, write this off as being anything less than what you would expect. This one right here sold for $18.95, and that's with 4 bids, which is not too bad. And here's a 64D Roosevelt dime. Of course, you guys know this is a 90% silver coin, and it does have a curved clip like you would see there at the bottom of the obverse and then top of the reverse. Pretty decent. And again, you know, make sure you check out your scrap silver. You'll find little gems like this. But this also has a really strong Blakesley effect, where it flattens out on the opposite edge right there. But really cool. Sold for $15.95 with 7 bids. Okay, so take a quick glance at this Kennedy half dollar, and you'll notice that at one point it was a roll ender. So it's got the what they call ring of death, and that's the scrapes of the little finger that help crimp the end of that roll paper. So it does scrape and make contact with the coin as it spins around. That outer peripheral edge there, which is unfortunate. But what someone did discover is this one has a doubled Kennedy profile, okay, is what they call it. But it's not a legitimate variety, okay? This is actually a form of damage called machine doubling. So as the coin is being struck, there's a little bit of a hop at the tail end of the minting process as it's, you know, releasing the strike. So you get a little bit of a side-by-side kind of agitation there, which will dig into the design of the coin. Okay, keep in mind, machine doubling takes away from the total, size of the device, whereas legitimate doubled dies will add to the device. This one, still cool. You don't see these that often. There is one legitimate doubled die obverse that shows a double profile, and I believe it's on a 66 SMS coin, Kennedy half dollar. But yeah, glad to know that there's a market for these, because it is quite ridiculous if you look at it. This particular coin sold for quite a staggering amount of money for a machine doubled coin at $33.85 with 16 bids. So if there are people that are bidding on this type of stuff, again, for you roll hunters out there, yeah, definitely pull these out, because if you could pop 30, 40 bucks for them just so someone has a really good example of this particular machine doubled event, might as well. The market is there. All right, and not pretty, but it's a 1919 Lincoln Wheat Cent with a cut die break at the base of the Lincoln's bust right here. So a piece of the die had fallen out, and when it strikes the coin, it'll leave a raised blob somewhere around the rim on there. But this one, even in its poor condition, sold for $37 with 7 bids. And here's a 43 Steely. Coin is in decent shape. Very little circulation wear, but it's got a curved clip there by the date, as a matter of fact. And this one sold for $26.88 with 4 bids. And there's going to be a lot of you that probably may or may not understand these quarters. Now, this is a 1964 Washington quarter. It's the final year of the 90% silver planchets. However, this is what they call the Type B reverse, which, simply put, the U.S. Mint inadvertently struck business strike coins with a proof reverse die. Interesting, huh? And you'll notice that as I flip through all the images and screw things up. But you'll notice that this particular leaf here that touches the A in dollar is quite sharp, and it's well raised, and it touches the A to where it forms a hard bridge to that letter. Whereas a traditional business strike 1964, you're going to have a really low relief leaf right there that doesn't attach to the A. So that's how you could tell each one apart. Again, I recommend if you have a magnifier, that's going to be the best thing you could use to determine if that is a Type B reverse. But keep this in mind. Type B reverses exist through a number of dates of the Washington Quarter Series during the 50s and 60s. I would have to say there's probably a good like 8 or 9 dates in there with this particular Type B reverse. This one sold for $16. Where if you figure it's a $5 coin just based off of melt value because it's a common date, you have automatically 3x your money on this. This might be the last piece of currency on the list. We have a 1988A $1 bill. You'll notice that the overprint is slightly misaligned. Just this first number here, the 6 is overlapping the first print. And then this green district seal is way left of its normal kind of like spot where it's normally at. But you can just see some overlapping of the first and third print on there, which is quite remarkable. But you know what makes this one extraordinary? It's a web note. All right, you see the print number? This one right here. It's to the right of "In God We Trust" on a web note, whereas regular 1988As that are non-web notes, the print number will be, or the printing plate number will be right here at the bottom right of the 1, or the E of the 1 in this area. And just to kind of recap, WebPress was a new kind of like beta test of a printing process. As you guys know, the standard printing process of today, these bills were printed on a 32 up subject sheet. So there's 32 notes that fit on a sheet, then they'll cut it down. Whereas on a WebPress, they print it like they did newspapers back in the day, where it's one continuously fed sheet that feeds off of a roll, all right, and then the roll goes through the printing press, and then they cut it down toward the back end of the process. It's something that they experimented for about, I'd say, like 5-6 years, and then got rid of it because it was not cost efficient. I guess apparently they had some issues, but there you go. Pretty neat little fun fact. It's been talked about all over the internet, but I figured I'd throw in a little kind of refresher for you guys. Oh, by the way, that note sold for $124.98, and largely in part because there's an error paired with a very desirable experimental printing note, which is the web note. We have a 1983 Jefferson nickel with a pretty good sized cut over the word trust. Apparently there's no trust in this one. Right? But you do have a little bit of weakness, and it's affecting more of the rim here by United, and that's what you want to see. Again, Cuds are king. This one sold for $38.42 with 5 bids. Now, we didn't talk about too many lots. As a matter of fact, I think we probably talked about one other lot on the list, but here's a good one. This is a 3-coin lot of Washington Quarters. They're all 1986p. The first one that you see there on the left looks to be a little bit of an uncentered broad strike, maybe a partial tilted collar. The second one in the middle is off-center by about 20-25%. And then you have another off-center struck quarter there at the end, maybe about 10-12%-ish off-center. But these coins are in phenomenal shape. I mean, this is a really good-looking lot right here. I'll say if you could pick up a lot affordably so you could flip it later at a singular coin basis, you could do that. But I think this one is probably maxed out at $80.95, and that's with 19 bids. Very active listing here. Oh boy, I love me some good old-fashioned, like period correct hobo nickel. Now, this is a really awesome looking coin. It used to be back in the day that, you had these guys, kind of like, I wouldn't go as far as say that they were like master craftsmen, but, if they were bored, they would sit there, pull out a nickel, and start carving it, and, what you'll notice on the original period correct type of nickels is that they haven't been polished or burnished or anything like that. I mean, they just simply started working on the obverse of the coin of these Buffalo nickels and then left the reverse untouched. Whereas on much modern hobo nickels and various other coins, you're going to see that they've taken the time and polished away the patina and stuff on the reverse and all throughout the coin to give it a much more kind of like better looking appearance to it. But early period correct hobo nickels, especially if you could tie it to a specific artist. There are artists with like very marquee type of styles. If you could do that, these are worth a ton of money. This one sold for $284. And you never know when you're going to come across a vintage hobo nickel like this. I've seen them in coin shops for $50. I've seen them. I think I had a friend that found one in circulation. You know, it's weird where these pop up. You might even find it in grandma's old collection of stuff like this. But really cool. It's just an early kind of like craftsman level type of stuff. It's like carving a piece of wood and making it something neat, you know, like a I don't know, a buffalo or, you know, a bird or something like that. Some would say, well, yeah, this is desecrating coins. I'm like, yeah, but you got to look at the folk art aspect of it. People did stuff like this all the time back in the day. All right, and for those of you that like to cherry pick coins, how about some of these early coppers? I mean, these things are affordable when they look like this. This thing is beat up. Man, this old lady right here is quite rough around the edges, literally. But it's 1846 braided hair large cent. Traditionally, you could buy something like this for about $10 at the local coin shop. But please do look for any sort of like repunch date or recut date or anything like that. You guys know that way back in the mid-19th century, mint employees punched the numbers individually onto the working die. Okay, not like it is today where it's actually engraved as part of the master hub. But this right here has a really cool repunch 6. So you can see the bottom part of the 6 kind of come out here. The coin is in rough shape. It has recirculated over many years. But yet, it's still sold for $30.99 with 22 bids. There is always some sort of interest in any variety in these earlier copper coins. And then finally, we're going to end it off on one of my favorites. We have a 1944 D over S over mint mark number 1 Lincoln wheat cent. This is also FS 511 in the Cherry Pickers Guide. I own probably 8 of these, and they all look pretty similar in condition to this. This is a coin that I had early infatuations over because my dad gave me a red book price guide, and there was always a picture of the 44 D over S FS 511 in there. Keep in mind, there's also a 512, which is no slouch. It's a very good looking coin as well. But this one, you're going to see the apparent top curve of the letter S that's been repunched on this one, or that's been punched rather. You know, on at one point there was an S mint mark on here, and then a D was punched somewhere along the line. So yeah, pretty cool. This is a really cool variety to look for. They're all quite valuable. You'll notice that the reverse of the coin has a lot of weird spots. So I would say this one is a problem coin from that regards. But yeah, it sold for $52.95. You don't find many of these that sell for under $50, even in less than desirable shape. So this is always a good one to cherry pick if you're like, you know, at a coin show. And if I know my coin shows, a lot of them will have these big boxes of nothing but wheat cents. You know, it's like, oh, go pick any of them, you know, 8 cents a piece or whatever it is. But this is like a main source of cherry picking for a lot of folks. You could go in, cherry pick some RPMs, some double dies, you know, some minor ones. And these all represent $5, $10, $15, $20 in value per coin. That if you could pick them up for next to nothing, that's a huge win all day long. But that's going to go ahead and do it. That was a lot of fun to talk about. Again, another PCMR for you guys to get excited about. Hopefully you guys find something neat this weekend and in the coming weeks. You know, it's no better time to go roll hunting or hunting at the local shop or show than the month of January, right? Because what else is there to do? Taxes, right? Or get ready for that? No, we don't want to talk about that. I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound. Thank you again for all your views and support. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit your boy up with any sort of questions at our email, info@livecoinqa.com. Appreciate you guys. Have a great weekend, and best of luck in your hunts. So long.